Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. This is a webinar around getting started with your website 101. My name is Selena, and I'll be hosting. And we have Steve here who will be telling you all about how to get started. A few notes: we're recording today's session for sharing after the webinar, and you can use the Q&A feature in Zoom, and that will allow you to ask your questions, and we'll try to answer as many as we can within the time we have allotted. We might not get to all of them, but if we aren't able to get to yours, please go to wordpress.com/contact, and our happiness engineers will be able to help you out. And once you exit the webinar, at the end of this, your browser will redirect you to a page where you can complete a short survey. So please fill that out and let us know what you think about it, about the webinar and what you've learned. And a recording for the webinar will be available on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/automatic. And that should be available later today or tomorrow. And we also have other topics that you can look into, topics around making money, or on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, we talk about blogging. Thursdays, we talk about WooCommerce 101, again, to make money for your blog. And then on Fridays, we have a getting started version of your website in Spanish. So please check those out. And after that, we'll get started with Steve. Steve, take it away.
All right, thanks, Selena. Hey, everybody. My name is Steve. I am a happiness engineer with WordPress.com. I'm located here in New York. Today, we're going to be talking about getting started with WordPress.com. So we're going to be covering some basics such as how to add content, how to use the block editor, and then how to tie it all together, like adding menus, changing the site title, and making a little bit of customization tweaks. So this is going to be pretty basic. We're going to go from basically start a brand new site to adding that content. So hopefully, if you've never touched a WordPress site before, you'll learn how to get going quickly. Or if you have kind of poked around a little bit, hopefully this will kind of clear up the process a little bit for you. So great. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I want to share this one. All right, Selena, we're good to go here. Everything visible? All right, perfect. Okay, great. So I'm just starting with the new WordPress.com site creator here. So I'm just on WordPress.com/start. You can see the first thing it does is prompt me to enter a site address. So for today, for some reason, I was thinking my father, when he retires, says he wants to start a hardware store. So I figured maybe I'll try to create a demo site as if he was creating a website for this hopeful hardware store that he might run someday. So we'll call it, we'll say for a site address, we'll call it Dan's Hardware. And you can see it's basically just looking for a site address here or domain name. So if we pick one of these custom domain names, it'll prompt us to add a plan. Today, we're just going to start with the free site address here. Let's try to get something a little nicer. Dan's Hardware, New York. Test site. There we go. So we'll go with that. Not very pretty, but that's okay. If we did have a plan here, we could add a custom site address, a custom domain name on top of that, so people wouldn't see the free site address. But for today, we're just going to start with the free plan up here. It'll take just a second while it starts creating our site. Great. And then once it's created, we're taken right to this homepage here. So this homepage here on our dashboard is really great for quickly getting to areas that you need to on your site to make these changes. So for example, you'll see these quick links here will let you change your homepage, add page, write a blog post, edit your menus, all sorts of good stuff here. For now, though, I'm going to show you how to kind of get into a little bit more of the nitty-gritty of the dashboard and where all this stuff is. So the first thing we're going to do is let's just take a look at what we have. So if we click the site title here on the left, you'll see it's just added some demo content here with the default theme that it's added. It also has some default pages here like about and contact. And you can see here that it doesn't even have our site title. So this is pretty bare bones. So we're going to go in and fill some of this out. So you can see on the left-hand side here is our dashboard, and this is where we can navigate to different parts of our site to make changes. So when you create a WordPress.com site, I like to think about two different halves. So the first part is adding the content of your site, which is stuff like pages and posts and adding media. The second half is customizing your site. So that's like choosing a theme, making site-wide changes such as creating menus or adding widgets or changing the site title. All that is done in Design and Customize here. And all the content is under this site setting here. And there's more tools and settings that if you attend some of the other webinars, we'll dig into a little bit more. But for today, we're mostly going to be focusing on just pages, posts, and the customizer here. So the first thing we're going to do is show you how to create a new page, right? So we have home, blog, about, contact, but when starting a hardware store, I want to talk a little bit about the services that are going to be offering. So I want to create a services page. So we're going to go here under site and we're going to click on pages. And you can see a list of pages here. So before we get into this, just to address kind of a common question here, what is the difference between a post and a page, right? So a page is something that's static and isn't going to change very often. So good examples of pages are a home page, a contact page, a services page, that kind of stuff. Blog posts or posts are more like news articles, right? So this is information that's a little more timely. You might be writing about a specific topic. For a hardware store, I might use posts to talk about jobs that I've worked on, or maybe some show off some custom pieces that I'm working on that I want to sell. Anything that kind of gives me a little insight into my industry that might be presented as a news article is good for a post. For now, we're going to stick with pages, and you can see the 4 pages that we saw in our menu are already here, but we're going to add a new one. And we'll wait for the block editor to load. Okay, great. So you'll notice when you first go to create a new page is you'll see the option to have these pre-made templates. So you can see there's templates for about pages, blog pages, contact, and there's even one for services here. And if we click on them, you'll see it'll populate kind of a preview on the right-hand side here of what this page might look like. So let's just go ahead and throw in one of these if we choose the Use Services layout. Great. So now we're inside the block editor, and the block editor here is where you actually make the changes to the body of your pages. So you can see since we've pre-added this layout, we can really just go in and swap out this content. So this is just a block here that we can change content. We can even change the site title here, but we'll keep it as services for now. And you can see everything in the page here is added inside a block. And there's blocks for just about everything you can think of. This is a basic paragraph block that's just plain text. These are column blocks that then have image blocks inside of them. And you can see if I click on them, I get the option to replace and choose a new photo. This is a spacer block that adds this kind of nice look. And starting with a pre-selected template is really great to kind of get your site going. But when I like to teach people how to use WordPress, it's actually easier to start with a blank template. So what I'm going to do is going to go to page layout and change layout. And I'm going to start from scratch here. Great. So now we can create whatever we want. So if we click anywhere you see the plus icon here, like on the right-hand side or at the top, this is our block inserter icon. And clicking on this will give us the option to add blocks of content to the page. So you can see there's a lot of different kinds of content we can add here, and it can get a little bit overwhelming. So we'll try to pull some most used blocks at the top for you, but you can also search to filter blocks using the search bar up here. So I have a specific design in mind that I'm going to walk you through how to create, which I think will be really handy and adaptable for a lot of different kinds of sites that you're creating. So the first one that I like to point out for people is something called our cover block. And what our cover block does, if we click on it here, it lets us add content on top of an image background. So you can see it just starts with this solid color, but if we click Media Library, we can choose one of these images to add as the background, but there's nothing here I like. So if I click the icon in the top left and do the free photo library, I can search for some photos that are available for me to use on my site. So I like this one right here. I think this is perfect. I'm going to copy to the media library and insert. Great. So now I have this image here. I can add a title to it. If I hit return or enter, it'll give me an option to add even more blocks on top of here. So for example, let's say I wanted to add maybe a button that goes to our contact page. I can do stuff like this. I can change the alignment. If I click on a block, you'll notice a few things. One is the toolbar at the top here that lets me do things like, for the button block, it'll let me bold or italicize. But also on the right-hand side, you'll see some more block settings here that'll let me do things like change the styling or change the border radius, so I can make something a little more round. Each block has its own setting. So for example, if I click on the cover block again, you'll see the toolbar says replace, so I can swap the image out, and you'll see it'll even let me change some of the styles here on the right-hand side, change where the image is focused. One thing I'll do now in the toolbar is if I click here on the alignment options, I can make this full width, which is great. And then let's see here. There we go. Not too bad. All right, great. So now that we've added a cover block and some basic information, we want to talk about our services. So the next block I like to point out is our columns block. So if we click the inserter icon here and search for columns, we're going to choose this block here. This lets me add blocks side by side evenly. So I want to offer 3 different kinds of services. So I'm going to choose the 3-column split. And you can see what we now have here is an option to insert blocks side by side, nice and even. So I'm going to add a new block, and this time I'm just going to add a heading block to describe some of the services. So let's say consulting is one. We'll add another heading, and we'll call this custom design. We'll add another one, and we'll call this deliveries. And we can, we also have, like I mentioned in this toolbar here, we can also make this full width, so we can kind of change the design to this a little bit more. We'll leave this wide for now. So if I hit return under these columns, I'll even have the option to add more blocks underneath. So for example, we can add image blocks if we want to add an image that's associated with this particular service. So if we go to media library, I'm just going to add the same image for the sake of time, but I can do that here as well. 2. And 3. Great. So I can change the caption here. I'll just delete this for now. And what we can also do with images, which is great, is if we click on an image and choose the link icon, we can actually link to another page. So if we wanted to have separate pages for consulting, custom design, and delivery, we could click on the image, click the link icon, and then either search for the page, like you can search for existing published pages or posts on the site, or just paste the URL directly. And then if somebody clicks on the image, they'll be taken to that page. Pretty nifty. So what's great about the block editor, now that we have a bunch of content here, is if we want to kind of change the design around. So let's say we just added some basic information here, like these are the services we currently offer. This is just a basic paragraph block, but let's say we wanted to create this on top of the column block instead of underneath it. So in the toolbar here, if we hover over to the left, we can click the move up icon, and boom, it's going to move that block above the column block here. So it's a really great way to kind of reorganize content. If you get a little lost once you start adding blocks, at the top here is an option for block navigation, and you can see it lists the block in order that they appear. So if you're having trouble selecting a block, or if you just kind of want an overview of what you have so far, you can use the block navigation here to select specific blocks, which can be really handy. Once a block is selected, it will also, if you click on it again, it'll, for example, the columns, it'll show you what's inside the column block, which can be really great for targeting even more specific blocks. So I like what we have so far. What I'm going to do is go ahead and publish this page so we can see what it looks like on the site. If I click preview, we can preview it before we publish. So this will add the theme styling to it so you can see the content at the top here. So let's do publish. Great. So our services page is now live. And if I click view page, I can see what it looks like on the live site. But you'll notice if I go back to the home page, there's nothing here in the menu, right? How do we get to that? We just have these pre-selected pages here, but the services page is nowhere to be found. So that's where the customizer comes in. So if we go back to our dashboard by clicking the W icon here, under design, there's the option for customize. So if I click on this, it's going to give me the customizer. And like I mentioned before, the customizer is where you're going to make site-wide changes. So this is where we're going to do things like edit the site title and add menus. So the first thing I'm going to do is go to site identity and change the title to Dan's Hardware. We'll give it a tagline. Great, and you can see as I edit, there's the preview on the right-hand side here that's going to display what changes we're making. We can also add a logo. I don't have a logo right now, so I'll leave it blank for the moment. Now, if we go to menus and then primary, you can see these are the pages that came with the theme when we activated it here, but notice our services page isn't here. So we can add it by going to add items, and then this will pull up a list of published pages on the site. So we can click on services. And now we can see we can access the services page on the top right. So if we click on it, it'll take us to that nice new page that we created. Menus are really great to, if you have a lot of content, you can organize menus in a bunch of different ways. So for example, if we just click and drag, we can just rearrange them, which is nifty. So now services is before contact. But if you want to create some more tighter, concise menus, let's say you have a lot of different pages that are kind of related, you can create sub-menus by clicking reorder. And again, you can use these arrows to move the pages up and down, but if you use the left and right arrows here, you can actually create a drop-down. So now we've created services under blog. So if we hover over blog, now the services pages appears underneath that. We'll go back for now. I will put contact under about though, kind of like that. Great. Once I've made some changes, I want to make sure to click Save Changes so that the changes are saved in the customizer here. We'll give that a second to save. Perfect. Widgets are basically little bits of styling you can add to your theme here. So if we click Add a Widget, for example, theme widgets are something that's determined by the theme. But just to show you where this one is, I'll add a simple text widget, which lets me add basic text. And you can see we're adding this inside the footer widget. This theme only has widget areas available in the footer. So if we scroll down here, we can see where that widget is being added. There's widgets for all sorts of stuff that you can see here, like options to follow the site, display images, add links, post your like, all sorts of stuff. So it's just another way to kind of add a little bit more information to your site. You don't have to use them if you don't feel like this is necessary for your site. Homepage settings here will let you change what page is set as your homepage. So right now, by default, it's that home page that was created with the theme, but we could change this to something like services if we wanted. So now every time we go to the home page, it'll start us on the services page. Post page, if you wanted to have a page that just displayed a list of latest blog posts as you create them, that's where you would assign that here. So if we set this as blog, then anytime we publish a post, it'll automatically appear on this blog page here. Let's say you wanted to have a list of latest posts shown on your homepage, you can just change the option to your latest posts instead of a static page. Like that, but we will go back to a static page for now. Set this back and save the changes. And for today, don't worry about the additional CSS section. If you're on the premium plan or higher and you're familiar with CSS, you can use that to change some more styling, but we are not going to cover that in today's webinar. So I will go ahead and exit the customizer. So that's how you go about, those are basically the building blocks of WordPress, right? How to add a page, how to use the block editor, and then how to tie it all together by adding those pages to the menu and then organizing the menu in a way that you like. I think we'll probably toss it over to Q&A now. Does that sound like a good place to Stop. Cool. I'm sure people have tons of questions.
Hi. Can you
Hey,
hear
you
me?
made it. Yes.
Yes, finally.
Welcome. Welcome.
Sorry. Okay, we don't have a ton of questions, but let's
Cool.
start and maybe some more will come our way.
Great.
So one is, if I type data text and then I change my theme, I've noticed all my typed content is lost.
Mm.
Is there a way around it?
Great question. Yeah. So one thing I didn't talk about too much was themes. So if we click themes here, you can see there's all sorts of options here that we can change to. And I'll even try to reproduce what you're talking about here. So for our newer block-based themes, which is everything at the top here, these are themes that were designed with the new block editor in mind. And these are the themes that will let you use those pre-designed templates that we were talking about. So if we chose another theme, and when it comes to changing themes, it should retain, the theme will retain the content that you've written, but with the new block themes is it will set the home page as the demo page. So if we activate a new theme, like let's say we wanted to activate Stowe, it's going to give us a warning that it will change our homepage layout, but our current homepage layout will be a draft. Should we continue? Let's click activate. We'll wait for the change. We'll play the Jeopardy theme song in our head. There we go. Cool. So let's go back and view the site now. And you can see now it has this new Stowe homepage. It still retains our services page that we created here, but notice the homepage is totally different. So to go back to our dashboard from My Sites and Pages, this homepage now, if we open it, will open the new themes template that it added. So you'll see this is exactly all that stuff that we were just looking at in the preview. But like that option warned us, if we go back to drafts, we should see our old homepage here. So if we click home, it'll open up that pre-designed homepage template from the previous theme. So if you saw, if you had made changes to the homepage here and then you switch themes, most likely it ended up in the drafts here. What you can do is just go ahead and set this to publish. I don't want to schedule, I want to publish it now. And once it's published, you'll notice it appears again back in our homepage settings here. And you'll probably want to rename it so that you don't get confused between the two different homes. But then you can go ahead and set this as a homepage again. If we view the site, there we go. It's got the new theme styling. So it's got those colors and the menus in the header and the footer, but it's got that old content again. Hope that answers your question. If you need any more clarification, happy to answer that too.
We do have a question about hosting. What is hosting? And I think it's a very good question for getting started. One, what is hosting and is it available in the free plan?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when we talk about hosting, we're just referring to where the content of your site lives, right? So whenever you create a site, whether it's with us or some other provider, hosting just refers to where the content of your site actually is and where people access it on the internet. So anytime you create a site with WordPress.com, you are hosting the site with WordPress. So for example, today we just created the free plan, right? So this free site, Dan's Hardware New York test site, is hosted on WordPress.com. If you wanted to add a plan, that then unlocks hosting features. So whether that's increased storage space, the ability to use a custom domain, access to support, ability to use ads, all that stuff are features that we provide as a hosting provider that then get unlocked with specific plan levels. But regardless of which plan you're on, the site content is hosted with WordPress.com. To differentiate a bit, because then a follow-up question to that too is, well, what about a domain name or a site address? The site address just tells the web browser where to look for that content. So the domain name is actually separate from the site content. So let's say we added a domain name called danshardwarenewyork.com. We got rid of this, or we're hiding the .wordpress.com domain. If we added a custom domain name, that domain name is just going on top of the hosting. So we can take that domain name and use it with a different host, and that's not going to affect the content we've written here. We can move a domain from another host to this site so that if somebody visits our new domain name, it'll take us to the WordPress.com site. I can answer some more specific domain questions if they come up, but that's generally the difference. I like to explain there's kind of two parts to creating a website, right? The hosting and then the domain name that tells the browser where to look for the hosted content.
Sounds perfect. Okay, so let me just a couple of things. We're getting some questions about monetization specifically, and I'm gonna put them all together. Specifically donations and, well, specifically plans. Which plans do we need for monetization features?
Great question. There's a lot of different kinds of ways to monetize your site. So to answer kind of the quickest one, which I think is what a lot of people have in mind, is ads. How do I make money through ads on the site? So if you'll go to tools and then earn, you'll see there's a section to earn ad revenue here. And since we're on the free plan, it says unlock this feature. So basically, in order to use ads on the site, we need a plan attached to the site. If your site is on the premium plan or higher, you can use our WordAds ad network to begin earning revenue. If you choose a premium plan or higher, you are automatically enrolled in WordAds. If you choose one of our lower level plans, like the personal plan, you can still use WordAds, but you'd have to apply to be accepted to the WordAds program. And the application is kind of determined on a variety of factors. So if ads is something that's important to you and you want to get started right away, then starting with a premium plan will let you use ads without the need to apply and make sure you're meeting the requirements for ads to be on the site. In terms of accepting donations, there's a lot of different ways to do that too. So one of the first options, and I think, I'm not sure how we do the follow-ups to this, but if we include links to documentation, there's information about a PayPal donation button that you can embed on your site, which would be a really quick way that can be used on any plan. So that people can click the PayPal donation button and they're taken to PayPal to donate money. If you need something more specific, like if you're looking to sell a specific product, our premium plan has the option to use what's called a simple payments block. What this does is it lets you set a static price for something, like $10 for I don't know, a custom mask that you're making or whatever, right? People can go in and complete the transaction through PayPal, and then you can get them that product. It's a real quick way to set that up. We also do have a pre-recorded webinar that covers monetization as well, a little bit in more detail that I can suggest checking out as well. That's also on our YouTube channel. The last thing I'll point out too is we do have a block for recurring payments. This can also be used on any plan. So let's say you wanted to have something set up so that people could receive money. You can receive money from people on a monthly or yearly basis. If we set up the recurring payments block, so this can be used on personal plans or higher, but basically what this lets us do is set up payment options so that people can donate something either monthly or yearly, depending on the plan level that they choose, and then you'll receive money based on that, and you can manage subscriptions and stuff like that. So a few different ways. There's a lot of different ways to monetize the site, but I hope that gave you kind of a broad overview of what options are available to you.
Yeah, definitely. And about ads, if you're seeing them on the free plan, just a small note. If you're seeing them on the free plan, we do add ads on free plan sites, and to remove them from the site, you'll need the personal plan. But then if you want to monetize your site, you'll need the premium plan. Or, well, there are other options,
Yeah,
but feel free to contact us. So we're getting a ton of very good questions, but our time is running out. I just wanted to say, everyone, that on Wednesday we have a webinar on blogging. So if you have a very specific blogging question, either you can contact us via wordpress.com/contact, or come join us in the webinar on Wednesday. As soon as this ends, everyone will be directed to a static page with a questionnaire, which you can fill and let us know what you thought. And you can also check our YouTube for past webinars with other subjects. We also had a very good webinar on SEO last week. So if you have, because I see a couple of questions here about it, so feel free to go in and check that. And I think that's it. I don't know. No, I think that's it. We're sorry we didn't get to all the questions. Feel free to join us next week if you'd like. Next Monday we have the same subject again, and that's it. Thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you so much, Steve.
You're welcome. No problem.